subjects to choose. Form 3 in the Chinese school. So it's quite interesting that we are quite advanced and mature in the way we choose. May not be all the schools, maybe some schools. So the issue is not about social science, humanities. Like now, the government is struggling to achieve the 60-40, 60 science, 40 arts, because the figure is reversed. For 60 arts, 40 science, and less people interested in mathematics. Why? We never answer this question. Everybody wants to be an artist. Everybody wants to be Siti Nurhaliza.
So the younger generation, in your view, is taking a more interest in
more interest. They're interested in
humanities.
all the advertisement, marketing. So the images that come to them, there's no beautiful scientists. It's only beautiful
So that's
artists.
good news for us then.
Exactly. I want to be a beautiful person. So I think this kind of understanding is not there in people in education, people in development studies, people in policy formulation. They are expressing their interest rather than the public's interest. So consultation with our general public on what they want is primary, I think, in this country. Not policymakers hidden in some nice air-conditioned room decide for the rest of Malaysia. I think this is what I'm coming across as I see.
So do you see that as a disengagement between the policymakers and
the difficulty is I'm part of a policymaker too. So that's why I realized that there's no much consultation, too much dependence on consultants abroad, from abroad, to tell us what is the best education system in this country. So for me, it is some way an insult to the social scientists here. But I understand. We have to achieve something. We have to make sure what we want to do in the next 25 years. But at the same time, I think they must be complemented by what the people actually want. Then we decide. I think that part is missing. So that is the missing social science component, what the people say. I think this is...
I think the social science, the artistic exposure is not to make them into artists or social scientists, but to give a much more well-rounded, more integrated view as a person. And later on, when they are leaders of their own field, they are much more balanced in what they do. I know that as a former graduate of engineering, we did not have, we only have engineering and society, even in Australia education, only until the end of the semester. So I think this is not very good, and I think in Malaysia now we have people who are right on top, who are not acquainted with culture, who are not acquainted with aesthetics, and eventually the way that they look at the general perspective is slightly
skewed?
Skewed.
All right. Dato.
Yeah, I'd like to give an example from Penang. I've lived there for the last 20, 25 years, and there is this amazing critical society, this critical mass in Penang, a very high level of literacy in English, and a very strong interest to join NGOs. So those who are leading NGOs are now highly educated, sometimes with masters, PhDs, and a lot from the sciences as well. You have these late bloomers coming in, wanting to take part in the theatre, to take part in the cultural arts, like the Georgetown Festival, for example, led by Joe Sadiq Productions, is extremely successful because it has led to a whole new generation of young actors, players, dancers, volunteers. There's a massive number of volunteers just wanting to help out. And this is because we have developed that social ambience of linking the arts with the social sciences, with the humanities. And it's quite sad that the universities are not fully involved in this grassroots NGO movement in Penang.
And why do you say so? What are the
they're
challenges?
bogged down with their KPIs and their publications. It's like a big headache for them. And they have so little time to take part in this. But like for our Borea production, we are reviving the 1950s P. Ramli Borea, Borea Jawi Pranakan, and we've managed to coerce the drama and theatre division of the Pusat Seni under Dr. Hadi and Dr. Mumtaz. and they're doing a marvelous job training these young actors. And the young actors were coming forward for the auditions as science graduates from the smart schools in Penang, mostly from Penang Free, which has a tremendous tradition of the arts, drama, debate, and also St. Xavier's. So you do have this kind of nice mashing, but you got to create a social ambience of that blend between the arts and the sciences. And I'm not sure if in KL society, which is extremely competitive, a very worried sort of a group, highly motivated, highly concerned with high salaries, with smart cars. I'm not sure if we can work here, because
I think KL have the same interest in the arts, but it's just that it's so disparate and it's unfocused. And what the Georgetown Festival has done is to focus it and to give Georgetown a really good branding. But what Professor Wazir has said, that the social science and the arts give such a wonderful positive thing to social ambience. And with the present problems in extremist views, everyone think that theirs is the only view that is correct. I think the arts provide that wonderful leveling factor, and this is good. It makes you think.
Okay, I will have to go for a second commercial break, but I'd like to pick up on your point, the social ambience. How do you implement it at a national level, and whose responsibility is that? We'll come to that after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. You are still tuning into the 7th Merdeka Award Roundtable, and just next to us in KLCC we have one of our national icons, the Petronas Twin Towers, which wouldn't have been possibly built without us mastering science and technology. But apart from our material success as a nation, have we been able to preserve the substance of it, that is our identity, our culture, arts and heritage? Tan Sri, I'd like to go to you first.
If you look at today, the chances for social science graduate, unless they belong to the economics, accountancy, and politics, maybe they got a better job. This is the one, you cannot run away from the fact of the choice of the parents, but parents alone must bear in mind, we must allow the interest of the kids, of the student to pursue the course. We shouldn't impose so much on the kids. And I think it is important. Today, engineering is important, science is important. In fact, everything is important. So when it comes to emphasis, and this is the most important thing, and in our country, which is multiracial, I'd like to repeat this, multiracial, multi-races, multi-states, multi-religion, the question of understanding of social sciences, understanding the difference between religions, between states, and between languages, and racism is very, very important. And this is where I think the social scientists, which I think will be taught by Professor Shamsul, to make these people understand, not only the engineers, but to everybody in the country.
Prof. Shamsul, what does our country need to move forward?
We have done many things for social sciences, but I think there is this underlying epistemological or knowledge-based kind of framework that we operate on, like a railway line. We have our track. It's called science and arts. You fashion yourself, you study your mind. There's this famous book by C.P. Snow, The Two Cultures, where he talked about, he's a scientist, but he's also an artist, he's a novelist. He said very simply, this intellectual divide between what is so-called science and arts has haunted us. I mean, British society he was talking about, not Malaysia, but we are a bit like that because we were colonized by the British, so we frame ourselves according to the best practice of the British then, which they don't do it now. So this is the good part about Malaysia. We keep tradition and heritage of a different kind. So for me, I think we just have to cross this. So how do we break this arts and science? I think that is the key. That's
How
one
do you
level.
bridge that gap?
Yes. So the gap is between, shall we now specialize in arts and specialize in science, when actually we have to combine them. That's why the word liberal arts come in. But then it has a different reason why liberal arts was taught in the US. So you can do music, you can learn Bach and biology, you know. So this is the kind of people that Ramli wants, you know. Probably I want that too, yeah. Because I didn't succeed in music, but you did. So personally, I want to be a musician and artist, but that was not working for me in Malaysia. So it was working for him in Australia. So pop music is nothing at that time in Malaysia, yeah. So it's very interesting for me. From this personal experience, I would be able to see. The second level is in policy formulation. Because policy formulation, we don't like to be guided in many things, but the country has to be run with a particular structures. Democracy and so on. But the question is, what is the orientation of the country? In the modernization effort of this country, the orientation has always been economic development. Economic development means must be based on scientific knowledge, science and technology. So when you talk about innovation, you only talk about innovation in a very narrow sense, scientific innovation. But in a society like ours, where many ethnic groups, it is the social innovation among the ordinary people has managed to make us move forward without ethnic violence in this country. That innovation is not recognized. Because now, there's no IP. Yeah? You can't get money from it, because it's social innovation. So I think this is what we don't see, what we have and we are rich in this country. And we never give this an opportunity. So in some ways, it is not what we can do for the nation. What can the nation do for social science? That is the question.
Back to your point about money, funding. In terms of social sciences, it's difficult to justify, to quantify. Yes, it can be compared, but in terms of quantifiability of social sciences, it's rather difficult, and that would have posed an impediment towards obtaining funding. Prof.
Yes, universities always say that social scientists don't need that much money to do their research. You can just go to the backyard or your back garden, or hop in and out of an Orang Asli village, or talk to a group of women, and that will cover your costs. And scientists need heavy equipment and machinery, so their grants are always bigger. But it takes us days and weeks and months sometimes to get the truth from a group of people who are afraid to talk to us, and we have to live with them. We indulge in participant observation, participatory action research, evaluative research, community-based research. Action research is like amazing, the amount of methodologies we have to come up with to get our data, to search the truth. Ultimately, social scientists talk about the truth. And of course, there is such a thing as relative truth, but we are concerned for that, basically. And I think, like in Malaysia, maybe if we can just appreciate the dilemma which a lot of social scientists are in when they do field work. You know, a lot of our students get chased away when they do surveys. They get chased away because they say we are tired of being bothered with surveys. You know, we don't want to do this.
The general public just don't see the significance and importance of social sciences in helping to curate solutions.
It's so tough for our students. They're doing internet research now for anthropology. The field of anthropology is the internet, the cyberspace. They no longer want to live in an Orang Asli village. I had to live in an Orang Asli village for 2 years and eat maggots and worms and monkeys and bat wings to survive. No student in this day and age would want to do that.
I quite agree with this.
Yeah,
because
it is
the idea
impossible
of
to get
really
them to do
turun
that.
padang is not very much with the students.
And also our kind of research in social sciences, it actually encourages talent, we become multi-talented, because like what Shamsul says, you can do a bit of music but you can't fully specialize in that. You can write but you can't be a novelist. Mm-hmm. You can draw but you can't be an artist, because social scientists have to do all this. Like an anthropologist has to do ethnobotany, ethnomusicology. We have to do linear drawings. We have to do a lot of scientific research. Traditional medicine is not easy. It's very, very difficult research. So we hope
Dato'
people
Ramli,
appreciate
what
us.
do you say
Yeah.
to critics who say that money is better spent in, say, cancer research rather than investing in preserving dance or our culture? What would you say to them?
No, well, the thing is that I'm going back again to what Prof. Shamsul was saying, that a lot of policies, such as one of this, also, they are evolving all the time. As the world is changing, the views, the perspective of the world is changing, because nothing is constant, as you know. And in university, in government, in state, in city council, you know, there is such entropy of ideas, of things that are outdated already. And this is where the social science, just like the science field, have got to change views to be more inclusive, to be in a situation like Malaysia with multiculturalism, with multi-racialism and multi-religions and all that. So views have got to be changing all the time also to be more inclusive. And this is where, then you mentioned about the building. Yes, you can have the building. What is the content of the building? What is the content of the city? This is where the arts, this is why people like me give the face of the city, give the social science, give the soul of the city. This is where we give the social ambience of the city. And this is very important, because you can have your BMW and your Twin Towers, but eventually the arts, culture and social science determined the persona of the nation, persona of the individual.
Yes, please.
Point? I can understand the fear, the concern is not so much about social science for me. We know this country is a top-down country. You tell me it's otherwise, I'll be most happy to hear. But I don't believe